Welcome back to Echo Ridge. Today, I'm going to do whatever I want because I'm not going to print a new dupe this episode. Now, before you start calling me a cheater, pumpkin eater, I want you to consider the following facts. I have printed out a new dupe every 3 cycles for 368 cycles. And the second reason is, well, I'm out of Patreon and YouTube members. So I figured we'd take a nice little break, sort of catch our breath, do some fun projects here in the colony without me having to worry about printing another dupe. One of the things I'm trying to figure out is if I want to rework this entire center part of the base. I'm not entirely convinced that I do, but I am somewhat concerned about the long-term support of the colony and of all the dupes. And what I mean by that is the oxygen flow. Right now, it looks pretty decent, all things being considered, but I started to realize the issue when I installed the 5th SPOM. I just have its oxygen supply just sort of going willy-nilly everywhere. And that makes me feel kind of funny. I don't like it. I'd rather have a nice clean system. So then I started thinking about, well, making living areas around each SPOM. I could have great halls, a bunch of barracks, 30 to be precise, so that way we know this SPOM is supporting those dupes. There's a couple of issues with that though, because nowadays we have both bionic dupes and regular dupes, so unless I dedicated 1 or 2 of them to just bionic dupes, it would be a hodgepodge mess, just like all of this is. I'm assuming this is all ice, so it looks like this needs to be scooped up again, and this needs to be mopped. The second issue has to do with food. I have to bring all the dupes here anyways because this is where our deep freezer is, and I'm not trying to make 5 or 6 other deep freezers. So then you're thinking, well, Echo, just have them come eat in the center of the base. This is the community area, not the sleeping area. And that's where I'm sort of leaning towards. The only issue is I was going to take the opportunity to put all of the dupes in suits coming out of their primary living area. And while you can send a dupe in a suit to go eat, it's just awkward. So that's where I'm sitting right now. What I will end up doing, I have no idea. The point of today's episode was to figure all that out. Let's hope I don't squander the opportunity of not having to print out a dupe because I've amended our fake rules. The first thing I'm doing is trying to get rid of all of this water, and the reason is pretty simple. I need to get into this cool steam vent, and it would just be a lot easier if this water wasn't here. So I'm going to set up a double water sieve. You might be wondering why I'm using 2, and it's because each water sieve can only deal with 5 kilos worth of water per second, but a liquid pump can handle 10. So I'm simply going to split the lines into 2 and then rejoin them on their output. Yeah, there is some water in here. I'm not too worried about it because the water will just pass through the water sieves. And then we're going to take this line and head all the way back to our primary tank. I'm not going to send it into an individual SPOM because then I'm not going to get the full 10 kilo flow. That would be an awkward and ugly run. So maybe I just join it in right here, although it looks like this is already 3.5 kilos worth of water. As a matter of fact, we have some flow issues here. It looks like all this water is heading in this direction towards the SPOM instead of it all being pumped out and then the overflow heading towards the tank. So I need to put a directional bridge in here, something like this. I do not want to put it 1 tile over because if I did, that would cause this line to be secondary to this line, and that's not exactly what we want either. But all this is the water coming from the desalinator from this brine geyser, which at max is 3.5 kilos, so I don't think it's too bad just to do a 50-50 split here, and no bridge will be required. I'll just join up with these packets. So while this brine geyser is erupting, the most we'll get from these 2 water sieves is 6.5 kilos, but that's not too bad because it's not constant either. Now all I need for that setup is a little bit of power, and we have our ad hoc weird spine right over here. We'll use some more lead, and we will go up and around, and I'll just bulldoze through all of this. It can go away anyways. Hook in the 2 water sieves, and then down to the liquid pump. So that's that situation resolved. Other than the fact that bionic dupes are going in there to pick up slime, they really just don't learn. That's not going to last too much longer because the only material that they really have to go get is the slime to bring it over to the mushroom farm. Well, and some of this polluted ice. What else do we have here off-gassing? In fact, I'm going to sweep all this up and all this up since it's sitting out in the open and I don't want it melting and falling all the way down in here, which is what I figured out was happening and is the reason why we have so much polluted water in this tank. All these separate little tanks really make me want to do one massive tank, but I've learned my lesson from those in the past. We'll just keep dealing with each one. I also need to keep working on this little weird sauna expansion, and I'm still stuck behind trying to figure out how to extend the sauna while keeping this spine here. Remember, you don't want to just have a joint plate going into your sauna because all that heat will end up leaking out. And it just comes down to laziness because I don't want to have to build one of these because they're a pain in the tuchus. But I suppose lazy people work the hardest, so I might as well just put my big boy pants on and figure it out. I mean, that's what this episode's supposed to be about. Me relaxing, just enjoying a nice calm game of oxygen not included. Well, I know the first one's gonna have to go here, so I might as well put that in now. And don't worry, I've already decided that we're going to save the Wheezewort and enshrine it by doing something like this. Now, I need to do this rather quickly because our colony is not getting any power from all these hydrogen generators. Well, I suppose it is, some of it because there is a split in the spine, but everything off of all these power transformers are not being powered. Oh, look, there's a pause. We might as well see what's in the blueprint. Oh, look, mirth leaf seeds. Next. Oh, the comments are going to give me such unbridled hate and discontent over this decision. Don't worry, we will end up printing out more dupes. I just wasn't in the mood today. After picking up all the stuff from the bottom here, I found a new item that I had not seen before, and that's power bank scrap. I could have sworn at the beginning of the Bionics DLC, whenever they finished using a non-renewable power bank, it just disappeared into ether. But in this case, we have power bank scrap, and it says the power bank has reached the end of its lifetime. It can be salvaged for abyssite at the rock crusher. And sure enough, there's the recipe right there. So I will put this on forever. And I suppose I'd be getting more lime from all the fossil if I actually plugged in the rock crusher. But I don't want to do it on the main spine. This line here has some load available. So in the interest of not destroying the colony while I build this vacuum sealed connection for the power spine, I'm actually going to extend the power spine over, let's say, to here. That way there's still another connection, so I can get rid of this and actually start to work. Now that I have a little bit of crude oil poured here, I'm going to mop just this tile right here. That way the dupe will mop here and here, leaving the little bit of crude oil right here. And that way, when I dig into this area, it will all end up being a vacuum, just like this. So now I can get in here and work, and as long as I'm careful with where I'm stepping, it should work out just fine. Now when you're building these, they don't necessarily have to be insulated tiles because this will be a vacuumed connection, so heat's not going to transfer anyways. I do it just because I think it looks better, considering all the other tiles are insulated as well. And while the melting point of lead is just fine for this installation, I choose not to tempt fate and we'll use something like copper. Bottom one has to go in first, and then the top one, with a little bit of heavy watt conductive wire in the middle. Another pod, and once again, we're not printing out dupes, so I'm going to take some of this wonderful grub fruit preserve. I feel like a rebel without a cause. And there we have it. A nice vacuum sealed heavy watt joint connection. So now I can mop this up, get rid of this, and now no matter what, I don't have to worry about heat escaping our sauna, which means we are ready to finish off this area. Got a little bit of oil spilled, no big deal. I can reconnect the spine, just like so, and I'll also have it go up through here, and then I'll disconnect this point. That way I can put a tile in here, seal this place out, allow it to be vacuumed, and then we'll cut in from the inside of the sauna. This is why I always say if you're going to make a sauna, err on the side of big, because you don't want to go through the pain of extending it afterwards. I'm also down to 5.7 kilos in here worth of steam, and it's partly because of my automation setup. Remember, whenever the battery says the steam turbines need to turn on, well, it's taking all that water out because I had connected the liquid shutoff to it to begin with. So that's going to have to change. And what we'll have is two separate Atmos sensors. This atmo sensor is going to be the check for this liquid shutoff. If it's below, say, 10 kilos worth of pressure in here, I want all the water that the steam turbines are condensing to come right back into the sauna. I suppose I can put that in a better area that's a little nicer. We'll say right there. It's not the most accurate reading, but it'll be close enough for sauna work. The earlier limitations of how much throughput we're getting from these two water sieves has been solved, and that's because there's so little water here and not enough area around it to heat it up to above freezing. So the desalinator was cracking because every time it tries to desalinate brine water and it's too cold, the water it creates instantly freezes and cracks the pipes. Eventually we'll have to put a tepidizer in here or use all this chill to cool down something else. I'm not quite sure yet. We are all sealed up for the future part of the sauna. So as soon as all this is vacuumed out, we'll be able to open it up. I'm starting to plan for this natural gas generators, which are going to be great for adding more steam pressure. Ooh, our atmo sensor is done. So I'm going to say green signal when it is above 10 kilos, which that tells you the difference between the steam pressure here. This is at 9.5, whereas this one is at 5.4. So I should probably relocate this a little further down so it gets a better reading of the entire sauna instead of just these max pressure areas. So I think I'm going to move it down here, get rid of this one, and then I'm going to move this atmo sensor, which is checking for the max, further up. The reason why I'm going to do it is because I don't want these high pressure gas vents to over pressurize. That'll even make this a little cleaner because I can tie it in right like that and get rid of all this automation. Another pod and another dupe I'm not taking. I suppose I can take a natural born hatch. We haven't had one of those in a while. Hey, little buddy, you can be our mascot. Also, in terms of natural gas, I am taking a little bit of time to tame this natural gas geyser. It's dormant right now, but it'd be great to get some of that beautiful natural gas and add it to the rest of the supply that we have around the colony. I think it's just one geyser. Actually, no, it is two geysers up here. So that'll be our third, which will help create more water and adding some much needed power to this area. The question is, how do I want to do it? Because the natural gas geysers produce polluted water, you want to make sure that wherever they are outputting that water is going to stay hot enough for that polluted water to flash. So I'm thinking right above here is perfect, considering this is where the metal refinery outputs all of its heat. The complicated thing is going to be working around all these gas pipes for this steam system here, but we should be able to squeeze it in there somehow. It's going to be tight, but we'll be able to do it. We need to avoid the pipes on the second tile and the fourth tile, which this does just fine, as does this, and I think we're going to end up putting 2 rows. And look at that. This is going to be just great. Step 1, the exhaust will join into one pipe here, and it'll head into our vacuum system. It will be hot carbon dioxide, but I'm not too worried about it. Carbon dioxide doesn't carry a lot of heat, and we have enough active cooling around our colony to where it should not be a problem. What is going to be a problem is getting the natural gas in. So I suppose that's going to call for a couple of more bridges right here. I think we're going to add another gas tank here. It's going to fill through there and then empty just like the rest, except it does not need to be insulated. And then we'll bring it out from here. Once again, not needing to be insulated, and then make our way up. More bridges. I'm also going to move some of this around. Remember, we discovered that in order to have a power plant, you no longer need the power control station, you just need more than one heavy-duty generators. So I can move the hydrogen's battery in here, and that way I can set up another room in here. Oh, I should have moved these over just a little bit more. Because how am I going to seal these into a room? Looks like I'm redoing the piping again. Remember that problem I told you that we're going to have because of these transformers? We're going to be in a vacuum. Well, it starts happening when the oxygen pressure is too low. All of these power transformers, well, they've broken, which means nothing over here is getting power, which is a problem. Because first of all, the suits aren't getting powered. The rest I can really care about, but we do need the suits, which calls for another temporary, yes, definitely temporary power transformer right here. And then I'll just connect it in like that. We'll fix all this here in a few. Cycle 378, I'm still being naughty and loving it. we're going to print out a snazzy suit. It'll only be our 4th snazzy suit. That's something I really ought to do. Put everybody in suits. And it looks like Aor was the next dupe to receive the snazzy suit. Enjoy it, my little bionic buddy. And at long last, with a bunch of spaghetti pipes, we've managed to get 4 natural gas generators in, and they're ready to go. So I'm going to start feeding them in with some natural gas. Now notice, right now we're producing polluted water, which is not exactly what I wanted. Or rather, the polluted water is staying, and it's because these tiles are only 120 degrees. And polluted water doesn't flash until 119.4. Well, because the game doesn't want things flickering back and forth, there is about 1.5 degrees to 2 degrees separation from its actual evaporation point. So these tiles need to be sitting at around 121 to 122 before all this polluted water will start to evaporate. The great thing is the 10 kilo DTUs, where the heat that each natural gas generator is creating, is now staying inside the sauna, which is great for our heat efficiency. We're still waiting to get the rest of the gases out of here. The gas pumps are made out of gold amalgam, and they don't generate a lot of heat themselves. In fact, it doesn't look like they generate heat at all, which is the reason why they're not going up in temperature. I didn't realize that. Learned something new today. Gas pumps do not generate any heat. They still have an overheat temperature, but because they're in a vacuum and not generating heat themselves, we don't have to worry about them getting fried. And look at that, all that polluted water has evaporated, leaving us a renewable supply of dirt. Cycle 381. Yes, we're grabbing the pemmican. It feels so good to be bad. A small update I've done is I noticed there was a lot of empty eco power banks, and when I say a lot, I can't even count how many. And it's because the bionic dupes will stand right here and grab a fresh eco power bank from this storage container. Well, when they do, they throw the old ones down in the tile. Well, there was no tile here, so they were all just falling down here. I should probably have set up some sort of automation that collected new ones, dropping them off and dropping off the ones that need to be charged. But it really doesn't take too much duplicate labor. But you'll notice that the power bank charger does spit out the eco power bank when it's finished. So that way an auto super could pick it up and put it on a rail. So maybe I'll update that as well sometime in the future. Of course, it's not like duplicate labor is something that we're short on around here, but every little bit helps. At long last, we have a vacuum, so it's time to drop some pressure around here. Suppose since there's a ladder rung here, I might as well do it right here. I can actually deconstruct all of this. I'm sure nothing will go wrong. Now I'm also going to have to add a whole bunch of temperature shift plates. I'll do that once I get everything moved. Ooh, and before we open that up, let me go ahead and disconnect these pumps because I don't want them pumping up all of our wonderful steam. Now all this, you'll notice it's quickly condensing, and that's because, well, everything here is very, very chill. So it's going to take a little while to get all of this situated. I am going to have to deconstruct all of these plastic ladders because they will melt. And I'm not going to need any of these natural gas generators anymore, so I can deconstruct all of it. Perfect. Now, I won't always keep bringing all the debris in here from all these rails. But for now, I think that's exactly what we're going to do, just so I can finish up that job. And all of these transformers need to be changed over. So we're going to do a change material and select steel. And even though they are broken, the dupes will come over and change all the materials over into steel. All the change material button really is a deconstruct and a rebuild. Which also means I can get rid of this temporary power transformer. I told you it was temporary. I'm as surprised as you are. I do have to update the hydrogen generator room because right now it is not a power plant since we opened it up. And this will give us a great excuse to put in the last hydrogen generator and make sure it's in a room. But considering it's not going down means this bridge is probably in the way of its input. Oh, there's a little message there. It says automation ports cannot overlap. It's because of the automation on here. So I just have to move this over a little bit. There we go. In fact, since I'm done with the explanation here, I can make this a little bit smaller now. And I'll do that to save a little space. And now our next hydrogen generator can go in. The blueprints are in for all of the temperature shift plates. That's going to take the dupes a few minutes. Now I need to decide if I'm going to add some more steam turbines. I like the system we have because it's 5 steam turbines, which is exactly 10 kilos worth of water. Suppose I could add maybe 1 or 2 right here that just circle around. I could even put them in a room. We'll see if 5 is able to keep up with the demand. Not to mention that all these temperature shift plates are going to drop the temperature in the sauna quite a bit. So we're not going to be needing steam turbines for quite some time. On the good news front, we were able to move the hydrogen generator that was sitting here and put it inside the hydrogen generator power plant, which is going to help all the power as soon as they get NG tune-up, that is. We are sitting at 115 microchips, about half as much as we had before, and that's because I've queued up a bunch of suit training boosters, although every time I assign one, as you may have just seen, or select one that needs to be used, the whole sim sort of pauses just like this, and it's because of all the dupes inside of here. So I think this is going to be the last round of boosters that I assign to the dupes, because I'm afraid this is just going to crash. See, there's another reason why I took a break from printing out more dupes. About the only other update I have for you is we are expanding into more Dreco ranches. You can see around the outsides here, all of the bomb lilies are growing just fine, and it's because of all the hot Dreco boys down here. As they slowly expand up, it'll just get hotter and hotter, and then I just hit copy on the critter drop-off and paste it onto a new critter drop-off. But for what it's worth, we're still only up to 2.7 million calories. I need that to say 27 million. In this week, it looks like I have 3 new blueprints to show you. I think we only printed out 2 on the Twitch stream this week. Let's see what we're gonna get. Number 1 is a gold Atmo belt. Very nice. Number 2, a charcoal diagonal. I think this is a duplicate for me. And number 3, some frilly atomic gloves. I think that's gonna do it for us in today's episode. Now, before you go and rush to the comments and yell at me for not printing out new dupes, you still had a decent time this episode, right? I'm looking forward to reading all the comments below. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.